All right, guys. So we are back for our week 7. We're kind of switching gears a little bit again. I know it seems kind of like scattered how we're doing things, but there's just some core concepts from each thing that we need to make sure that you guys know. And then with whatever time we have left by the end of the year, we can kind of go back and go over some of those. So we're kind of totally shifting gears again, and we're going to be talking about scatter plots and line of best fit, which is something that you guys might have heard of, you might not have, but that is what we are going to be going through right now. Okay. So our goal is that by the end of today, you should be able to find the equation of a line of best fit for a set of data points and use that equation to make predictions about the data set. So before we get into lines of best fit, we are going to start talking about scatter plots. Okay, so scatter plot, the definition for that, I'm just going to go ahead and write it down and then we can talk about it. So a scatter plot, the definition of that is a graph of plotted points that shows the relationship between two sets of data. Okay, so it's just going to be a bunch of plotted points on a scatter plot. There's not going to be a line connecting those points, it's just the points. Then we have something called correlation, and the correlation is the relationship between the points on a scatter plot. Okay, so it's how all of those points that I put on there relate to one another. So we have 3 different types of correlation that we're going to talk about. The first one is a positive correlation, and a positive correlation means it's going to be increasing, it's going to be going up. So you would see your dots kind of in a pattern like this, where hopefully you can see that for the most part, they're all moving in the upward direction. Okay, remember, we always read it left to right. A negative correlation is going to look like they are all moving in a downward direction. And then none means they are just scattered all over the place. There's no way you can kind of figure out which direction it would be going because it looks like it's going in all of the directions. Okay, so positive, negative, and none. The positive and negative, just think about when we were doing slope, right? We are going to be using slope and slope-intercept form going into all of this today. So kind of think about it this way. If it looks like it has a positive slope or a negative slope, that tells you what the correlation would be. So here we're going to determine whether each graph shows a positive correlation, a negative correlation, or no correlation. If there's a positive or negative correlation, we're going to describe the meaning in the situation. So if we look at number 1, you look at all the data points, it's pretty clear that it's kind of moving in an upward direction, which means it's a positive correlation. Okay, and then it says describe its meaning in the situation. Actually, look at this. It's calories burned during exercise. So as the time working out increases, the calories that you are burning increase. So a positive correlation shows that as one increases, the other increases. Okay? Number 2, library fines. We have our books borrowed versus the fine in dollars. You notice there's no really clear line that I can draw, so this would be no correlation. Or you could just write none. Okay, there's no relationship between the number of books borrowed and your fine. Because if you return all of them on time, then it doesn't matter how many you borrow. Next one is weightlifting. We have the weight that you are lifting in pounds versus the number of reps you are doing. You can see that this has a pretty clear negative correlation, it is moving down. So my correlation is negative, and what that actually, how I can describe that in this situation is as the weight increases, the number of reps decreases. So as you're lifting a heavier weight, the number of reps you're able to do is going to go down. Number 4, it's a car dealership's revenue, so it's the number of years, or the year, I should say, not number of years. It's the year that it is versus the revenue in terms of the money that they're making. So you should be able to see it's not super steep, but it's definitely moving in a more upward direction. So this would be positive. So as years increase, revenue increases. So as the years go on, they're making more money. Okay. So that was our little bit of, talk in terms of scatter plots, correlation, all of that. So now we're going to be getting into line of best fit. So when we're drawing our line of best fit, we have to remember 2 things. We always want to go through the center of the data, leaving points above and below our line, and we want to follow the general correlation of the data, or follow the slope of it. Okay, so we're going to take this one step at a time. We're going to do this problem together. So it says create a scatter plot for each set of data, then determine if the data has a positive, negative, or no correlation. Write the equation of the line of best fit, state which 2 points you used. First thing we do before any of that, we need to label our table. We've done this before, so we have our X and Y. Okay, our X values, it looks like we can just count by 1. So you want to label that. Our Y values, it looks like we can also probably just count by 1. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is take each ordered pair. That's an ordered pair. That is. I am circling all the different ordered pairs because an ordered pair is X comma Y. So my first one is 1 comma 2. So I go over 1 and I go up 2. I plot that point. So you're just going to plot all of these ordered pairs. So go ahead and do that. Okay, and once you have all of your points plotted, the next thing you have to do, and if you have to pause the video to get all the rest of your points plotted, please do so. The one thing I always do is count the number of points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ordered pairs. That way I know I didn't miss one. Okay? Once you have all your points plotted, I would take the ruler out. We haven't used this in a little while. And I would kind of try to line it up. And I would see, where can I line it up? What 2 points that I just plotted could I use that would kind of split the data pretty evenly? And what I mean by evenly is that if I were to draw a line using this ruler, half my data would be above the line, half my data would be below the line. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to draw this line right here using my ruler. Your line might be different. For this, I would say probably try to use the same one I did. So if you notice, I went through this point right here and this point right here. Okay, and I have 1, 2, 3 points that are below the green line and 1, 2, 3 points that are above. So we're trying to put that line kind of in the middle as best as we can. Every single one of your lines could be different from what mine is because you could pick different points than I did. Okay, and that's the one thing I want us to remember more than anything when we are doing this is that you can pick so many different points. Okay, for this one, there's not as many options because there's only 8 points, but our equations could look different. As long as they are relatively close, you will be okay. So for example, when I get my equation, let's say it was y is equal to 2x plus 4. If you have y is equal to 3x plus 5, that's okay. If you have y is equal to 9x plus 15, then we have a problem. We know you did something wrong. But within reason, these lines can be a little off because we're all picking our own points, if that makes sense. Okay? So the points that I picked are this one right here, which was 1, 2. And I also picked this one right here, which is 6, 8. So now what I'm going to do is find the equation of the line that I just drew using the 2 points that I know it goes through. So first thing I'm going to do is find the slope of the line. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I got a slope of 6 over 5. Okay. From there, I'm going to use one of my ordered pairs, and I'm going to use my slope in order to figure out what my y-intercept is. So I will use 1, 2. So I have my slope is 6/5, my b is 4/5, so then the equation of my line is y is equal to 6/5 x plus 4/5. Okay? Again, if you picked different points, yours might be a little different than mine. But as long as you can look at it and say, all right, yeah, my line kind of looks similar to hers, my equation isn't too far off, then you're fine. The correlation, looking at that, you should be able to see that it's going up, so this would be a positive correlation. Okay, so we're going to do one more example problem together. First thing we always want to make sure that we do is label our x and y axis. So go ahead and do that. We should be able to count by ones again. Okay, so then from there, I'm going to go ahead and plot my ordered pairs, my points. Okay, if you have to pause the video at any point to finish copying them down, go ahead and do that. Now, what I want you guys to do is I want you to try this on your own. So pause the video. I want you to try to make your own line of best fit. And when you replay that, when you press play, you're going to see mine. Okay, so go ahead and pause right now. Okay, so these are the points that I picked. If you want to pause the video to compare it to yours, you can. Just because you pick different ones does not necessarily mean you are wrong. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and write the equation of my line. So I first need to find the slope. My slope is negative 1/3. I'll use 4, 5 as my other point. So I get my y-intercept to be 19/3, which, just in case you aren't really sure exactly what that is like 6 1/3. Okay, so I write the equation of my line. Y is equal to negative 1/3 x, negative 1/3 is my slope, plus 19/3 or 6 1/3. It should make sense that my slope was negative because if you look at my correlation is negative. It is going down. Okay, so if your equation was a little different and you're unsure, you can always ask me to kind of check yours and make sure I think it's good when we meet shortly. But other than that, that is all of our notes for today. So I will see you guys soon. Bye.